Andy Grammer, welcome to the Let's Give a Damn podcast.
Dude, it is awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're doing it in New York.
We're in New York.
You're here for a world... Okay, that word needs to come out better.
Yes.
Whirlwind trip.
Yeah, I'm here for like 20 hours.
Begin by telling me about, because we were just fangirling over PS22.
Yes.
A project I've been following for years.
Ugh, it's awesome.
You were here to participate, not just in that, but that was a good chunk of earlier today. Tell people about PS22 and why they should be on YouTube right now.
Oh my God, go look them up. They're incredible. There's this incredible choir director who just like sets pop music. He like does incredible arrangements with his elementary school choir. And so I've gone in now twice. And the first one that I did was a song called Don't Give Up on Me with this children's choir that then like really was one of the main drivers of that song. And also just something so sweet about kids singing.
It really is beautiful.
God, when kids sing, both times I've been now, I try not to cry for the first couple takes. It's like really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not like amazing musicians have come to partake in
Oh,
this.
yeah. There's like a laundry
including
list
Andy Grammer.
Yeah, a laundry list of like
and
really
Sarah
awesome
Bareilles
people.
and just a ton of people have showed up. And I love the moment because you just confirmed something that I didn't know because they've never invited me to sing, nor would they want to. But that you don't know when they're going to come in, how they're going to come in, right? You show up to play your song.
Oh, yeah.
And so
he arranges it.
You're playing it, right? And they're recording it, and all of a sudden the kids come in. And I love that first moment.
Yeah.
When you realize what they sound like behind you.
Honestly, on the video of Don't Give Up on Me that went a little bit viral, it was the fourth take because the first three, I just started crying. It's so beautiful. It's just so sincere and sweet. And something about kids singing, especially singing really well, is really, it just gets you. It gets you.
And what song is it? Can you say what song you did?
This one just came out, a song called Save My Life.
Yeah.
So we brought in a bunch of teachers, a couple that were actually retiring, and we got to sing I Think You Should Know You Saved My Life to them, which was awesome.
Amazing. And we're going to talk about Save My Life because I think the power of words, the power of affirmation, and how that song came about and who it's for is really, really important. We'll get to that, though. Let's begin by setting the table a little bit.
Okay.
Most everyone listening probably knows your music, even if they don't know your music.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard your songs at one point or another. Grocery store, flipping through the radio, or they're huge fans like my family. We'll have to get a photo for my kids.
Yeah,
they
please.
love you. Most of our dance parties involve multiple Andy Grammer songs. And my kids in our little apartment up in Harlem screaming, "Damn, it feels good to be me," all together, like as we're getting ready for bed.
I love it.
Is amazing. But let's set the table because a lot of people know know about your music, but they might not know some details. And I always love to get some of the story because the story, I think, gives us clues as to so many podcasts are so great. I listen to so many podcasts, but they start like present day. They'll just like go into like whatever book they're writing, a project or whatever. And that's fine. That's a way to do it. There are fantastic interviewers that do that and do it really well. But I always want to start with story.
Yeah.
Because who you came from, who influenced you growing up, where you grew up, led you here.
Yeah.
Right? To this moment, making beautiful music and helping and changing lives. So start us out, where you came from, what your family was like, who are the people, places, and things that shaped you into who you are today?
So I grew up about an hour from where we are right now. It's called Monroe, Woodbury, or Chester, New York. And it's like suburbs of New York. And my mom and dad were incredible songwriters. I have an older brother as well. And so my dad, I grew up with my dad being a children's singer. And he would, it's funny because today I just came from an elementary school and I was thinking about him. That's what he would do. He would go into elementary schools and sing these songs that were like, had meaning and were sweet that he would write with my mother. And just growing up around that was really, really sweet. So it was funny because like growing up around people that are writing songs, trying to figure out like clever ways to make these young kids understand and feel without trying to be too corny. But they had songs that like really, really hit. Like they had silly ones like Barnyard Boogie that would make everybody clap and dance. Yeah. And then there was like, see me beautiful, look for the best in me. It's what I really am and all I want to be. Could you take a chance? Could you find a way to see me beautiful? Like, it's sweet.
Imagine hearing that as a kid.
And then it's
empowering.
Yeah. And it's a couple times that I got to go and watch what was happening. It was like sorcery of watching my dad with these songs that him and my mom had written. I don't know, giving little spiritual chiropractic massages to people's hearts.
How did they get into that? Like, that's not a normal career path. It's
No.
exceptional and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And as you describe it, I'm like, man, I need to rethink my
so
career
cool.
path. But how did that happen for them?
So my dad was chasing like pop music, and he was with a group called the Limelighters, which is like folk music stuff, and it just was not working perfectly. It was like just enough to not be enough. You know,
Sure.
those jobs that are brutal because they like pay the bills, kind of.
Yep.
So then him and my mom, when my brother was born, started writing music for children, and that's what started to really work. And he could see that this is where he was meant to be. You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that was here in New York or back
That was in New York.
In New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mom used to book gigs like wherever the Limelighters were playing during the day. She would have my dad go play at an elementary school and just slowly built it around that. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's no surprise then how you turned out the way that you have.
Yeah,
I
it was
think.
a really great way to grow up. If you want to be a songwriter, is to grow up at a table where people are talking about hooks and pre-choruses and verses and watching them tweak things and yeah.
Were there any other non-familial, really big people or places or things that impacted you, that really shaped you? Or was it mainly being around these incredible, flawed, I'm sure, but incredible parents?
Yeah, they were really, really great. I think it was mostly at its deep core them and this idea that you could just do something that sweet and have that be what your life was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I always feel when I meet other musicians or artists who come from families that are lawyers or doctors or some other thing, there's like a big thing they have to break through to even understand that you could do something like this.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just grew up in just breathing it in. Like, oh, my dad's a children's singer.
Yeah.
I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
The fact that that is working means that at some point you could do, if you work really, really hard and you build something that is of value to other people, you can do whatever you want.
And the kind of bigger dream maybe of being a pop star didn't work out.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to abandon the music.
No.
They didn't want to abandon music. So they figured out, okay, I'm still going to stay in music. What's another path? Like that,
and then
that perseverance is amazing.
You go a deeper level of like purpose. Like, I don't know that his purpose was to be a huge pop star. I think that anytime he was in a school, if you asked him, he'd be like, oh, this is totally where I'm supposed to be, which is a whole dance of like ego and stuff like that. I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
To go like, oh, you recognize that that's the way you're at. Maybe if the world didn't put you on a huge pedestal for it. And they still did. I mean, he did great. He was nominated for a Grammy for Best Children's Album. And he was very much recognized for how good he was. And him and my mom were, accolades and stuff. But still, there's this thing where you have to hold on. You have to own that I'm a children's singer. And that's really sweet the way they did that.
Very sweet.
When
did your music career, I mean, were you young watching them do their thing? Then you're in your bedroom, like writing stuff down, playing guitar, like figuring it out? Or when did your music career begin?
Started in like high school. I was mostly a jock, like super intense, very competitive person. So pretty much like 7th grade through high school was pretty much just sports.
Yeah.
And right near the end of high school, I picked up a guitar and started messing around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of had an inclination that like, oh man, I would love to express myself in some sort of artistic way. So I thought maybe I want to go do acting. But then when I got to theater in Binghamton University, upstate New York, I realized like, whoa, it's not just, I don't want to say your words. Why am I, the acting thing is like, you're telling me what to say.
Totally.
This is not what I'm signing up for.
Yeah, you want
So I would be
write.
writing songs in between the acting scenes and then eventually realize like, oh yeah, I want to write songs.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're going to go be a playwright and do the whole thing.
That seems very overwhelming to me.
Well,
to write a screenplay or a full, and at this point now, maybe it would be fun to do, but at 21, you're like, it's way more reasonable to write a 3-minute song.
Yeah. Okay, let's skip to, I don't want to skip over too much. We'll go back to some of the career stuff, but let's skip to present day, or rather the last couple years.
Yeah.
Because your life and music, it seems like something has happened over the last couple years.
Sure.
Starting with a huge out of nowhere pandemic, and then your second child being born right at the beginning of that, a child who has only known a pandemic.
Yep.
Right? That's
Pretty crazy.
weird. Like my
Super
kids are
weird.
a little older, but it's weird. Like we sit and think with them all the time. Like my son, I look at pictures in March of 2020, my brother got married like a week before the pandemic. So we've got all these wedding pictures. And I'm like, all of them were so tiny.
Yeah.
And the last couple years, being out of school for an entire year, and then finally going back to school and, masks and each of them have had to be home several times not because they've gotten COVID, but somebody else in the class has. So it's this back and forth.
Yeah.
We can't really count on them being in school all the time. So much has happened. They've grown up so much, but your child has only known that. They were at least born and somewhat aware of the world before this happened. But so what happened 2 years ago that it seems like the singles you've released since then have still been just as deep and meaningful, but they seem a little different.
They're different. They're different. I feel like I was running as fast as I possibly could outwards, which is awesome and fun. And like, how do I get my music to everyone? How do I explore the world out? How do I get to Japan? How do I get to Australia? How do I make this thing go as far as possible?
Yeah.
And something about the pandemic made me turn around and go how do I run into myself? And so I've been running as fast as I can in the other direction. And the music is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Are you an extrovert?
Yeah.
So yes, same here. The pandemic has been
Brutal.
painful.
I've always said check on your extrovert friends. They're not doing good.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I live for my life partner and I, Rebecca, we're a perfect pair because she is an introvert, hardcore, and loves her time. We have a great relationship. She loves her time at home. Mm-hmm. And so I've always, as an extrovert, I've never had a partner who has said, stay home. You can't go out. She's always just go.
Get out of here.
Go do your thing, right? So that's been so great. And then a couple years ago, I had to cancel my office, moved into the shed and back, extended Wi-Fi out there, started working. And
Dark
I
times.
can tell that what I created during those 2 years, and even up until now, I'm still coming out of it.
Yeah.
Has a different flavor. It just feels different because I'm not able to. Yeah, I feel like I have been suppressed.
It's really
by
hard
recording these things in my shed, and
I know.
it feels different. I can't go out and have meetings and coffees and beers and all the stuff I did before.
Yeah, it's really hard. And what I love, which still is hard a little bit, is I love to create spaces for community.
Yeah. Yep.
And they don't just occur. Someone has to do it.
Yep.
And so I love to try to do that. That's what a show is. That's from the moment that you walk in to the moment that you're all singing together to the moment you leave, I'm trying to create a community feeling here so that there's something so sweet. It's at most basic, everybody singing together is a communal experience that we all need desperately. And then I love to do that at my house, open up my house and have a bunch of songwriters in LA over and just talk about how to encourage them. And this is something that I get fed so much from doing stuff like that.
Yep.
And I haven't been able to do that as much. And that was really, really hard.
What did your detoxing look like? Because it felt like coming down for me anyway. It felt like coming off of a drug addiction.
Yes.
And I would be shaky, I got to go out, but I can't. It's not safe. This was pre-vaccines.
You and me are
pre-everything.
exactly the same.
And so, what was your? Yeah, it felt horrible, right?
Spinning out, eating Twizzlers, so many Twizzlers at
Twizzlers,
1 p.m.
That's amazing.
Just being really, it was kind of like a detox, really unhappy. It was really, really frustrating and bucking the system, trying to figure out how am I supposed to do this? And I think it was really, I've had enough space from it where I'm grateful for it now because there's deciphering what of it is fair to be upset about and then how much of it was you running from yourself. Extroverts, sometimes it's because that's who we are and that's how we've been made. And then other times, because we don't want to deal with some stuff when we get quiet with ourselves. So we just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Next thing, next job, next what's up, next show, next. And there's actually a fear there to quiet down. And so that is not cool. And I would have continued running from that, I think, forever. Unless you put me in a cage for 2 years.
Yeah.
So now that I'm here, I'm oh man, I got into therapy, quiet down, trying to get better at meditation, trying to just really take stock of myself. And I'm appreciative of that.
Did you also, one of the positive things, as opposed to so many negative things that happened the last couple of years, was family time that, we're in different lines of work, but I was traveling all the time.
Totally.
I was away my kids. So when my first daughter was born, I was managing a hip hop tour, was a nationwide tour, 35 cities. We were gone for 2 months. I came back 3 24-hour periods in 2 months with a brand new kid. And I remember so vividly, they came in, we were living just south of Seattle at the time, and they came to the Seattle show. And my daughter, who's like 4 months, 5 months, she did not want to come to me.
Oof.
And that was like she had forgotten. I mean, it makes sense. I'd been gone for half her life at that point. And so I started traveling less after that, but still a lot of travel. My kids had always known that. And then now we're, 24/7. We're together for a long time. Was that both hard and good? Was it all good for you?
I think most of the time with them was good.
Yeah.
And the time that was hard was just me alone at an office. But when I got home to them, I'm like, this is amazing. I love you. Yes, toddlers are obnoxious, but in general, I would just say there was nothing about them that was bad. It was all good. It was only when I would go to an office every day and be like, I just can't take this anymore. It was like really hard. Yeah. So the time home was good. Now I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It's hard to leave again,
Yeah. I never thought I would feel that way, but now I go away for 3-4 days as things starting to open up and we're getting a little more comfortable-ish. And not that I didn't miss them before, but I was very comfortable being away. Loving it, being with people, going here and there, traveling, loved it. And now I'm like, I could go back right now after 2 or 3 days. That's a good feeling.
For extroverts, some sort of healthy in and out is good.
Yes. And I feel like the pandemic forced us to, I don't know. It sounds like that for you. For me, it made me a much healthier person because I would just
totally healthier.
Loving my family, be looking for any excuse to travel and get out.
Yes.
Let me go do anything.
Yes.
Not to get away from them, but because there's a world to fucking explore out there.
Totally.
And now I still want all that and I love being at home more. It feels great.
Yeah. Yeah. It was important. I'm glad it happened. It was brutal.
Yeah. No, I know. Okay, so you're back to, you've got, you did some shows a few weeks ago.
Yep.
That, did one here in New York, and you're another tour starting right now, and then you're on another tour later in the summer. How does it feel now?
Unbelievable. Because the crowds on the first run were so excited to be back. I was so excited to be back. And then, that, like I said, you're teasing out why, when it was so hard to not be on the road, was teasing out why. Some of it was ego. Some of it was the constant need for achievement. That's where a lot of love. The mixing up of achievement will get you love.
Yep.
That shit's weird.
Yep.
But also some of it is fairly this is your purpose. This is what you're really good at. This is what when you feel like you're flying. That's also fair to say that's how it is. So I'd really miss that too.
Yeah.
It's so fun, man. Playing.
But now it feels healthier, right? Because you're not your ego is not feeding off of that, but you're just really enjoying the community that you're making.
Yeah.
And I've seen, I have not unfortunately been to one of your shows. I tried to make it to the last one. I will make it soon, I promise. But I've seen enough videos to see that people are, it's not just music, it's not just a one-way transaction from the stage to the people. It feels very familial. It feels very community-oriented, which is the opposite, which is very hard to do. I've been to 1 million shows in my life, and you can feel, it can be a really fucking great show. It can be an amazing show, but it didn't feel like we were not in community. You are this amazing artist, and you're performing for me, and I'm receiving it, and that's it.
And I think that there's no judgment on anything. We all need different things. You turn on Netflix from night to night, and you're like, tonight I need just something stupid and fun.
Office,
tonight I'm ready to go
Seinfeld.
Sundance vibes. Tonight I need, and so when people come to my show, they're usually, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they're coming to be reminded or uplifted. And so when you start a chord to a song that they know, it's not just that they've danced to it, it's that they've gotten through cancer to it, which is different. You know what I mean? It's a vibe that is different and incredible and powerful and joyful. And it's really lucky to be able to do it.
I want to go through a couple of your songs and hear maybe the story behind them.
Sure.
But let's start with Save My Life, which we love.
Thank you.
The video just came out a few days ago.
Yeah.
Everybody should go watch it. The song's amazing, and it why don't you tell the story? You lost your
Sure. So my
mother.
mom passed away when I was 25, and I was pretty much in shock. And so her best friend, Lee Muro, who lives in New York, actually, and she just really stepped in. And it wasn't like, it's fun to write this song now because it's been 13 years since my mom passed away. She didn't like do it in a way that was like, I'm your mom now. She just quietly showed up in the ways that you would need. There's like a hole here. She shows up and fills it. There's like, oh, well, there's no one to walk you down the aisle. That's mine. I'll do that. There's no one to do this thing that a mom would do. You're moving. Let me come help, And so after 13 years of that, you look back and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You saved my life. There's so many moments that my life could have went in a completely different direction. And you were kind of like the what is it when you're bowling? Like the rails that come up.
Yep.
Like she was like, kept me on the tracks, And so getting to write a song like Save My Life, I think you should know you saved my life. And then getting to tell her in New York in front of a big crowd. And we just got to like blast it all over. We were just on Z100 this morning here in New York, like talking about Lee. It's been so sweet. And I had like an awesome conversation with her last week where she's like, I'm just getting called by so many people. I'm being blown up with love. It's
Lee's
so great.
famous now.
Lee's
Rightly
famous.
so.
She should be.
Rightly so.
And then the idea that this is what moves our world.
Yep.
It's like all these actions that a lot of times are not seen or celebrated. But yeah, it's someone who is showing up for someone that really needs it.
Yep. Lee had no idea that, 13, 14 years later, you would write this song,
No.
And so Lee...
She wasn't doing it for that.
No.
Yeah.
And that's what turns the world around. I feel like there is this tendency toward showmanship, which I get it. Like, good deeds and doing good things and making, like, one of my least favorite things, and this is a thing I have to work through, is all this trend where people help homeless people on camera, give money away, like they do all these things, right? They tip people $1,000 and watch this person like go into tears. I understand why they do it, instant tears, right? Like even if I watch it and I'm not thinking about how much I hate it, like like your body reacts. And I'm like, how about shut the camera off, do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do.
Totally.
It's hard. And so Lee, like so many people still today, and so many people for forever and ever have done the right thing, no cameras, no show. It's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to step in and take care of Andy. His mother's gone. I love
that. I'm so interested because I've really like danced around the line of what you're talking about. It's so interesting because you also want to, like, I want to see good things.
Yes.
So is there some like ratio we can deal with of like 6 times do it without telling people, 7 times show it, or just never show it? Because there is something about like, oh, when I see this, I am now inspired a little bit to do something in my life in this way. But I've found a lot of times when you're trying to be of service, a camera is like not what's needed right now.
Right. That's a great question that I have no
I don't know the
for.
answer.
I have landed on, as I think I stated this as I started this little monologue, was it's a struggle for me. In other words, I don't think it's a never. I guess when I have a visceral reaction to it, it's mostly when there's money involved.
Got it.
And it's mostly when there's a vulnerable person involved.
Yeah.
For example,
totally.
a homeless person, right? Like you walk up and hand them, there's this one that's going around, which again, I get the mentality behind it. See if they're generous, then you give them like 1,000 times over. Like, hey, can I have $1? You ask a homeless person, and then they give you the $1 and you give them like $1,000, right?
Sure.
So you saw that they were so generous with the little they had. Again, I get this heart behind that, but you did not ask that person if they wanted to be on camera.
Totally.
To catch their very vulnerable, like who knows what the fuck they've been through in their lives.
Yeah.
Right? To get to that place, and now you're flaunting their...
So there's I'm speaking now, you're making me think of this. We're trying to be of service to my community. And one of the things that came up when I was trying to be of service was this community is really afraid of drive-by arting, which like rocked me. Which is like coming through a community that is vulnerable and thinking that you're helping, but actually just like making art and then extracting and leaving. So I think that's also a little bit of what you're talking about.
It is.
Is like, oh, you're seeming like you're helping, but it's actually for you.
Yeah.
And so I've just been learning a lot about that. Trying to not like, oh, I don't want to drive by art. That's not my goal.
Yeah. And so I think at the end of the day, I want to refrain from as much judgment as possible. And also, like, everybody has to think through, like, why am I doing this, right? Like, it's on everybody to say, have the best motives in the world. And I do want to film this. I have gotten their permission, their consent, and hopefully people will be inspired to do something. I think that's a different thing. I haven't seen many people do it well, in my opinion, but I don't want to write it off because yes, the reaction that I have, if I go in there with my guard down and I see that interaction, I want to do more as a result. But the truth is, and now I'm going to do a version of it just because I want to hopefully help and teach right now, is I have bought, since moving to New York a year ago, I've bought 100 meals for 100 homeless people. Like, right? And they say they want food. I take them to get food. I've always got 10 minutes. I've always got $10 or $15. So go take them to get food. Never once have I been like, let me film this so that I can encourage somebody else. It might come up in story later, and maybe there's a time to do it, but I would feel very slimy or grimy or whatever, like filming that and saying, hey, here's Bob. I just met Bob and Lisa, and they're homeless, and they're, just buy them the fucking food. Yeah. Wish them well and beyond, but I don't know.
There are some people that do it amazing, and some people are. It's a real fine line to walk. Yeah.
There are. Okay, so I want to talk about the power of, we'll get to some of the other songs.
Yep.
I want to talk about Lease on Life and a few other songs that I think are really meaningful. And I'd just love to hear a quick, like, what's the story behind it? Because they are so meaningful and they're meaningful in my family. But when it comes to what we're talking about right now with Lee and Save My Life, you have, and I said this before we started recording, you've got this presence about you that is very, it's woven throughout your social media and your songs, very positive, but not cheesy positive, not the kind of positive that I'm repelled by. And I have a pretty good, like, the Joel Osteen kind of positive. I'm like, nope, get away, right? Yeah. So yours I'm attracted to, and a lot of other people are attracted to it. So, and in the last 5 or 6 years in this country, we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Starting with a certain someone's presidential election, so many things that happened during those 4 years, a 2-year pandemic, lots of like all the stuff we've been through the last couple of years. We are still in the place that we're in, which is like trying to dance around, like, do we mask? Do we do this? Do we go? Yeah. Because it's still around. It's still everywhere. Like thousands of people are still contracting this virus and hundreds are dying from it every single day. Lot to dance around. And now this, like, I don't even know how you feel about this, but I could probably guess, but the whole Roe v. Wade thing, this assault on women's rights, and it feels like we're going to go back 50 years. Like, I can't even conceive of it. People in my own family, I love them, God love them. Therefore, these kinds of things coming to pass. So it's hitting very close to home.
Yeah. And
by and large, your social media doesn't you don't say something about that. So I'm not, don't take that as a critique.
No.
I'm wanting to get into the mindset behind this because I don't think everybody should. And I personally get into lots and lots of trouble because I speak up, too often, maybe too angrily, and I'm learning and I'm growing and whatever. But it's kind of absent from a lot of your social media and a lot of the rhetoric. It seems like you instead, it's not like you don't care about these things.
No.
It is, we need positive, joyful voices amongst all the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
And you posted, I'll let you talk in a second, but you posted this quiet rebellion the other day on your TikTok, or not on your TikTok, on your Instagram. And I just want to read it. And then I want your response just about the power of words. Quiet rebellion, to be happy in this dark world is a rebellion. Each smile, each laugh is a shot fired. I did not come here to only feel sorrow. While I am overcome with it, there is still a choice to be made, a life to be lived. This joy that I release is a quiet rebellion.
Yeah.
And in the Christian scriptures, I think about this analogy of, several times in the Bible it talks about there's the power of life and death in the tongue. And in the book of James, the tongue is even called a fire.
Yeah.
And fire can be good, right? It can warm people, or it could burn this whole building we're in down.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the power of words and why you have chosen the route you've chosen to speak up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple issues that I usually will speak up about. Race is one of them.
Yes.
Where I really feel like it's really important for me. to speak up about that. There's a couple others. In general, I just don't know how effective it is on social media. I don't know if that's like the place where we're gonna like change somebody's mind. Like, is like real good discourse occurring there? I think for me, it's a lot more about like in my inner circle. If someone says something that feels off to me, it's a pull you aside and let's have a conversation and try to get all the way into it. Also, one of the things that's been lucky about being a musician is you're just getting to travel and be around different people every day. So I have deep friendships with many people that identify as red, blue, whatever. The other thing is that as a Baha'i, you're not allowed to identify with a political party. So you're like, I'm not allowed to, because you inherently it's divisive. Politics inherently, a two-party system is divisive.
Yep.
So you're not allowed to like be seen that way or really comment too much on things that would lend you to be right or left. Now that's delicate and that's scary. You also don't want to be just someone who doesn't care. Like I care deeply about many things, but I don't know that my voice is as necessary. And when it really feels like it needs to be, then I'll jump in and say some stuff.
Yeah.
But in general, it's pretty divisive.
No, a few different points. I sometimes force myself to believe that my little voice is more effective than it actually is on social media.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is because we're so digital now and everybody lives on the internet. Of course, this is where we have to have the dialogue. But that's bullshit. I know that. I assume most people know that as well, even those that contribute to it.
Sure.
I mean, if you just spend 10 minutes on Twitter, there are 9 million, opinions about 9 million different things, and everybody says they're right. That can't possibly be true.
Yeah.
How do you wade through that? I was in a little back and forth with a friend of mine the other day about he is a very loving pro-lifer that isn't like the far right sort of pro-lifer, right? So he's a very reasonable one, but still pro-life. It's not my position at all. But so we're having this back and forth about this whole thing. And it just got like 3 tweets back and forth. It got like heated. Like it shouldn't have gotten heated.
Yeah.
Really fast. You want to know why? Because you tweet something, you have no idea if they're responding to it, if they're just waiting it out. So then you have another thought and you go and tweet it. But they're tweeting something back and they just get lost in the mix. And then I just recently changed my phone number. So he was texting me saying, dude, let's just get on the phone. But then my other tweet came in.
Got it.
And he was like, what the fuck? Like, why isn't he stopping this? Like, he really wants to. That is how most of them end up.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you went there, which is like, what is this even doing? Because I'm constantly pushing myself to like, I don't want to to share more. Again, not just positivity for positivity's sake.
Yeah.
But like share more good news, share more good things. And I think that's why you have been so effective in music and otherwise is because there are a lack of voices like yours.
Yeah.
There are a lack of people that, again, I in no way am saying you don't speak up about things you care about.
No, and I think that it's just a very delicate...
compared to other people that like...
Yeah, it's a very delicate line.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of case by case see what feels right.
Yeah.
And when is your moment that you can not just add to the noise? When is your moment where being silent is now you're like you're taking a real stance by being silent.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to do that dance is interesting.
Well, yeah, and we by and large as a society have said, especially people on my side of the aisle, more progressive, folks have kind of determined that if we don't see like whether it's George Floyd's murder, Roe v. Wade, whatever it is, the insurrection. Like if you don't, in 10 minutes, if you don't have a tweet up, an Instagram up about it, stating, like telling us where you stand on this, you must not care about it.
Totally, and I think there's a lot of, even harkening back to what we were talking about before, there's a lot of work to be done around these things. So sometimes it's easier to just put up a post and then not like do work around the thing.
Yep.
And so sometimes it's also scary if you feel like you haven't done the work. when a major event happens to be like, am I the one that's supposed to be commenting on this? Or is it time for me to like go learn about this?
So good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I should, like, I could definitely hop on a bandwagon, but I think I need to go do some work in my community and understand or have a conversation with someone who's having an issue with this. I am not advocating for being silent. That is not it. But just
that is wise. And you want to know why we don't do that generally as a society? Because it's hard work.
It's hard work.
It's easy to tweet 240 characters.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say, I'm going to go read Cast by Lisbeth Wilkerson, or I'm going to go read these books.
Or go have conversations.
Or go have the conversation.
Like real conversations.
But that's hard, right? Because we have to get, this buddy that I'm talking about. Like, we have a phone call tomorrow. I blocked off an hour.
Yeah,
and
great.
it's going to be, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be amazing. It's going to be super chill.
Yep.
There will be no tension. I will share my thoughts. He will share his. We'll go back and forth.
Yep.
And it will end probably with respectful disagreement on a certain number of things, and also a virtual hug across the phone. Like,
exactly.
yo, I love you. I'm for you. I think we want the same things ultimately. We're just, that whole sort of thing. Where on Twitter, it took 12 and a half seconds for it to get fucking like crazy. Yeah. And so that is the hard work, but it's the necessary work of like, stop typing, stop posting the screenshots and the photos, and actually do the hard work, which is...
Yeah, and I think for, we're two white guys, right?
Yeah.
I think that we just have a lot of context that we're off on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in general, my new place is when something happens, I go like, I need to go check my context. I need to go run this by a lot of people that are not coming from my very limited understanding of how the world is.
Yep.
And it's hard, man.
I love it.
It's really hard.
I love it. Let's talk for a few minutes about your Baha'i faith.
Yeah.
How it came about, why you're still, a lot of people that I grew up with were something when they started and aren't that anymore. And I love the Baha'i faith. I've told many people that if I weren't a Christian, I would be a Baha'i, like 100%. I think Baha'is are better than most Christians. I just do. Like, look at what Christians are doing. I guarantee you there were 0 Baha'is treasonously storming the Capitol on January 6th of last year. Right? Like, it just wasn't there, right? It's not in the ethos. It's not a part, And so, and I've had Gold Reese and Rain and Justin. And so I'm just like intrigued by it, but more in this, so I know about it, but a lot of people might be chiming in for the first time. So what's your story there, and why are you part of it, and what do you love about it?
I think like anything, everybody gets to make up their own mind of like how they want to live their lives. And so if you try some new green juice in the morning and it doesn't work, then you're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And then you try something else and try something else. For me, I have tried very limited time periods where I'm like, I don't know if I believe this. I don't know if I want to read these writings or say these prayers or act in the way that these teachings are saying. And I just genuinely love it. It's a lot based on service and the unity of all religions. And it's really kept me steady in a way that I just really appreciate. And the writings are amazing. The idea of the Baha'i faith is progressive revelation, that there's one God and he continually sends messengers of God in succession, and that they fulfill each other. So that it's not just like, everybody's right. It's like, no. If you look at Judaism, you look at Christianity, you could see from a Christian's perspective that those are like one thing, right? Yep. And there's the overall belief, you can get deeper into the weeds of it, but that all of them have that same idea.
Yep.
Yeah. And I love that idea.
We're on the same page there. My journey has gone all over the place. A few years ago, I actively chose to stay in the Christian faith because I wanted to leave it all. I mean, around 2016, Trump becoming president, most evangelicals voting for him, a lot of my family and friends, and I just like lost it. I was like, how? Why? Like, are you kidding me? And I had a crisis, and I, to use a popular term today, deconstructed the whole thing down to the studs, right? Took the house down to the studs and, said, do I even want to build this back up?
Yeah.
And for now I'm in, but I'm in only as a, to put my language to what you just stated, as a universalist. Like, the only way I'm in is if God gets everyone in the end. Yeah. Like, everybody gets in. Yeah. Everybody. Not everybody has to become a Christian to get in. Everybody gets in. Yeah. And when you start really befriending Baha'is and Jews and Muslims and you start looking at everything that's going on and you peel back all the weird shit and the verses that don't make sense and the ones that when you do that, you realize that we're all going in the same direction.
It all sounds very similar.
Yeah.
It's very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I just love we're working on my morning routine. I'm trying to get up and say prayers every morning and read the writings. And it just like sets me up for a good zone.
Yeah.
And then it comes through in a lot of my music, not in a manipulative or pushing way.
No, you're not trying to proselytize anyone.
I'm not at all. But it's just kind of like, how are we continually reaching the higher versions of ourselves?
Yeah. And where did it start for you? Did you say that and I zoned out? When did you?
Yeah, so my parents were Baha'is.
Okay.
They met as Baha'is, and I grew up, like I said, about an hour north of here, but not a big Baha'i community where I grew up. And there would be like Sunday school sometimes, and then we'd go off to like summer camps and stuff. And it was like something that I just, even when I moved out, I'm like, oh man, there's a lot of value here for me in this. I really, really could see the value of it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there's no main church leader.
No.
Right? There's no leader leading this thing.
No.
And I love that. I'm a walking contradiction, and I think that's fine because we're all walking contradictions. Sure. But like, I'm very attracted to so many things about the Catholic faith. Mm-hmm. I love going to mass. I love the quiet, the bowing, the incense, all the stuff.
Yeah.
And I have seen what this hierarchical structure, how many people have been hurt.
Yes.
How many people have been seriously hurt, physically, emotionally, sexually, mentally. And you look at all the Christian, like you go all around and you see that when someone is given power, and then I also just finished a show called The Last Kingdom on Netflix. You seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many times in there, right? Where these leaders, these priests and these church leaders, they're blaming all their shit on God.
Totally.
They're blaming the wars they're causing. They're blaming the hurt that they're inflicting on women and children, the killing, the everything on God, right? And so when you have these leaders that are now the mouthpieces of God, you can do a whole lot of damage because you've scared them into believing that if they don't follow what this, mostly men, right? Yeah. All throughout history. Few women are leading now, but it's been mostly men throughout all of history. So if you don't follow me and what I say, hell, fire, damnation, like you're not going to make it. And so when you remove that central leader and it's now a community effort, I'm sure there's messiness in the lack of leadership.
Sure. I mean, anytime, to me, there's two things. There's God and your relationship with God, which is hard, but I would say simpler.
Yeah.
That's like just, are you willing to show up and like get better at that relationship? And then there's religion, and religion to me is basically just how are we all going to do this together?
Yep.
And so I have a lot of compassion for how hard that is.
Yeah. No,
that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
All together.
Yep.
Because you're dealing with something where a lot of times you're leaving. To me, faith is something you're leaving logic a little bit. And once you let go of logic, the thing is, if you just stay with logic, there's stuff you're missing out on that is so awesome.
Amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's incredible. You don't want to just stay on logic.
Yep.
But when you leave logic, then you can make it rid. I'm in a cult. Shit, I'm in a cult. It just happened. I didn't even know how to get here. You know? So that dance is something that we're all kind of working on at all times. And I just have immense compassion for anybody. People that are like, have been screwed over so much. They're like, screw religion.
Same.
To the people that are like, whoa, I can really see what this is. And so much good community has been built around religion for the right things.
Yeah. Right? It's been such a gift and a curse.
When you just throw away the baby out of the bathwater, it's like, oh man, if we just never go, or we're never creating spaces where we're around each other trying to reach for our higher selves, then like we all lose from that,
Yeah. And I'm not trying to paint a perfect picture of, the Baha'i faith, but I imagine that if you remove the ability for there to be that cult leader, that pastor, priest, bishop, whatever, and it's a key part of your faith that it's progressive revelation, right? This thing is going to keep on being revealed to us versus most Christians, most Jews, most Catholics, like, it's done. Here's the canon of Scripture. Like, but what's in here?
Don't they say that someone's coming back?
They do say someone's coming back.
Just never happened.
But exactly, no. It's like Jesus is still coming back.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right. Well, not Jews. They're they reject Jesus as the Son of God. But for Christians, yes, Jesus is coming back. But they get everything about that coming from this Bible that was written thousands of years ago, that was literally written down, sometimes the events that were being talked about in here. They were 30, 40 years removed from it. Who remembers what happened 34 years ago? And it was passed down multiple times. Then they wrote it down. But then they're following it to a T.
Yeah.
When it's not, it's impossible that this thing was perfectly written and perfectly passed down, right? And so I love the idea. I'm living, the only reason I'm still in the faith is because I believe that it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and everybody gets in the end, right? So now I can befriend everyone, regardless of our faith, and say, let's do this together.
Totally.
It's not me versus you.
Yeah.
The Christians aren't going to do it the best. We actually suck at a lot of things. But if we do it together with people that don't have no faith leaning at all.
There's also a lot of good they do too. I'll say
they do a lot of good.
Oh my God.
100%.
When you think of like, in so many communities that I go to, a lot of like the service-oriented things are coming from the church.
They do, 100%. Yes, 1,000%. The Southern Baptists,
Unbelievable.
they have done amazing stuff in the past.
Yeah.
They have also hurt a lot of people and did amazing stuff, which is, again, why we have to, life is both and.
This is life,
Life is both and.
Yeah.
You know what I love? For those that are watching the video of this, I love that we're having this conversation in this art studio.
Yeah.
Couple things. One, the audio might not be amazing. I don't know. In post, we might see that this is super echoey in here. You're hearing the air conditioner on. And we have these like
Incredible
amazing
paintings.
works of art. We also have empty canvases. We have hundreds and hundreds of bottles of paint. Like, that's the conversation we're having.
Totally.
Is that like we're the same age. We're 38. We'll be 39 this year, right?
Yep.
And so we're the same age. We got some kids. We got, wives. And we're, and 2 years ago, we had similar deaths
Totally.
and rebirths
Yes.
that are now bringing out amazing new music. For me, other projects. As we begin to wrap up, talk about the story behind Lease on Life.
Yeah.
Because I love that song.
Oh,
it has meant so
you.
much to me because I think I'm going to get multiple chances to really be able to sing that and think that, right? It's not like one Lease on Life, right? Like, I want to have multiple deaths and rebirths and multiple times in my life where the way I currently am, like, shuts down and, like, a new version of me, like, comes out. Because I am much healthier. I'm still a piece of shit in a lot of areas, but I'm much healthier now than 2 years ago.
Super piece of shit in many areas.
Right? Yeah. But we can keep having these like leases on life.
But I gained some real context from it, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So Lease on Life is just really a song for my daughter, Izzy.
Oh, I love that.
So freaking cute. And she was born in my living room in the second week of the pandemic. And so it was so sweet to go through one of the hardest 2 years of my life, but the whole time know that you couldn't be that unhappy.
Yeah.
You were just given the sweetest gift you can ever get, this little girl. So that was kind of the idea. Like, wow, it can't ever really get that bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to like spit on life when it's just giving me the most incredible, precious little gift of a human.
Yeah.
So it's like, she was she was our good luck charm and one of the hardest seasons of life.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, it might not be a new kid.
Yeah. It can be a lot of things.
It can be a lot of
Dude,
things.
this is what's great about music is like, man, I've been saying lately, I'm in the season of life where I'm like having a lot of fun writing coloring books instead of magazines. And what I mean by that is sometimes you write you really do all the detail in on the song lyrically, and you give it to someone and they connect with you because of how specific you're being, which I like to do too, and that's cool. But man, when you have a song like Don't Give Up on Me, where it just wraps itself around anyone's story, that's what I think Saved My Life has a similar vibe. Where like, oh, I'm going to leave some of these details out so that it's a coloring book that I give to you. And while you're hearing it, you're just writing in your story.
Yeah.
And Lease on Life has a little bit of that as well. People are like, oh, this meant so much to me because of this. And it's completely different than something else because someone else. Yeah.
I love that you just gave that magazine versus coloring book because it's so true. There are so many amazing artists out there that sometimes like the music, everything about it, we can like get into.
Yeah.
But the actual lyrics, we're not even sure where they came from or what they're saying, right? Like, what are you really saying here? It's artistic. It's amazing.
Totally.
People can come to an Andy Grammer show and scream at the top of their lungs, Lease on Life. And every person in there is thinking about a different lease on life.
A completely different thing.
Every person is thinking about a different person that didn't give up on them.
Yeah.
Like that, those kind of songs are what are going to carry us forward.
And it's so funny because I'm a little bit of a purist around lyrics, not purist, just whatever worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm now hitting a zone where it doesn't have to be that way for me to enjoy the song.
Sure.
Just now.
Yeah.
Like I'm just getting into like, oh yeah, I don't really know what he's saying in Radiohead, but it's so good.
Right.
And like, I don't know what this Chili Peppers song is about, but God damn it, this is making me feel something extra awesome. You know? So I'm coming to that. There's just room for everything. And I think as artists, you just have to get clear on what it is that you love to do and triple down on that and get better and better and better at that. And then be comfortable that you're like not like the other person.
Before I ask my last question.
Yes.
Another question. The penultimate question is, what do you have for us? What's coming? What can people get excited about? You're releasing these, you've released 4 or 5 singles over the last year.
We got more coming.
Like, so yeah, what is this all building to? Tours, all that stuff.
More songs coming. And then we have, 2 more tours where they're heading out in about 2 weeks. And that's going to be, please go check andygrammer.com and just come to a show. It's so fun.
The show's everywhere.
It was so sweet of you to read some of that poetry. The shows have like a decent amount of poetry in them, which is really fun. Leading in and out of different songs. So we got a lot more shows coming and a lot more music. It's a really fun time where there's like almost like a stream of songs coming.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we're the same age. I plan to live to 120. You-ish?
Sure. It sounds like a lot.
So 80...
120? You're telling me you're a third done?
I would love to be.
Wow.
I mean, come on.
Are you excited about what happens? Are you don't you kind of want to know what happens next?
Next?
Yeah.
Yes.
Next sounds awesome.
Yes, but isn't next like, it's much longer, so I can wait. That's my thought process.
Got it.
Is that like, whether it's an eternity or not, like it's going to be bigger and longer and something that we can never imagine.
Totally.
I do believe in an afterlife,
Yes.
and I want to get there.
Yeah.
But if it's an eternity long, I can
You can wait.
I can wait 80
Okay.
years.
I hear you.
Point being, here's where I'm going.
I'm not trying to die, but I don't know if I want to wait that long.
In 60 to 80 years, this is hypothetical.
Yes.
You die, and for some odd reason, I've been tasked with speaking your eulogy over all the people that you love, the people that have been affected by your life, your family, your kids, your grandkids, their kid, like everybody that loves you and that you love is there. And again, for some odd reason, I'm up there eulogizing you. In a couple sentences, what am I saying to them about your life and legacy?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would say I hope that I was a reminder of soul, like a sticky note on your fridge, just as like remember your soul. That's kind of like what I was trying to do. But I don't want to be annoying about it, and I definitely don't want you to feel like I'm pushing anything on you. So like if you don't want it, like just throw it away.
But it's there. But it's there if you want it.
But like if it at all is helping you, then leave it on the fridge. And when you walk by the fridge, go like, oh, totally, soul, sick. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Andy Grammer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
on
man.
the Let's Give It In
That was
podcast. This
fun.
is amazing.
Yeah, we went into some stuff we don't usually go into. I appreciate it.